Hello and welcome to Avanade's next episode of Imagine What You Will Do with AI. We're very privileged today to have Anna and Alice from AQA on our next episode. Anna and Alice, can you quickly introduce ourselves before we dive in? It's such a pleasure to have you, so thanks for taking the time today.
Thanks for having us, Catherine. So I'm Anna Trethewey. I'm Executive Director of Corporate Affairs and Strategy at AQA.
I'm Alice de Araujo. I'm Head of Delivery in AQA's Global Assessment Services business.
Oh, fantastic. So I would say, let's just jump in. So can you start by just telling us a little bit about AQA, what AQA stands for, and just the kind of industry backdrop that you're dealing with?
Yeah, of
every
course.
day?
So AQA, it's probably important to say straight away that we are the UK's largest awarding organisation. So that means we issue exams, but we also do a wide range of other things in assessment services. But typically GCSEs, A-levels we're known for. But similarly, we've got a presence in the vocational market, and we also have a wider global presence that is growing. I think it's probably also important for us to say that we're an education charity. And for us, that means that any ethical considerations as part of AI are really important, and we need to make sure that we are innovating, but we're doing that in a regulated way because we have to report into the government in terms of regulatory frameworks. That's Ofqual for us, amongst others. So anything we are doing, we're doing carefully and mindfully and with that kind of ethical consideration right at the core of what we do.
I think we would also think of ourselves as being a fairly forward-thinking organisation when it comes to technology. We've partnered with Avanade before on a number of different projects, including the Nexus programme, which was a huge transformational replacement of our core operating system, and we did that in 2022, and that was a huge success.
Yeah.
Wow. No, really fantastic. Thanks very much for being on the show. So I think you've also obviously been on an incredible AI journey over the last year and a bit. Talk us through some of your considerations, motivations, ambitions, and even the bets and the risks that you took when you started on your AI journey.
Yeah, I'm happy to give a quick consideration to that. So I think it's really important for us to differentiate the level of risk around the level of the ambition of innovation. So in certain areas, for example, we know, and that's including areas that we partner with you on, there's a kind of a out-of-the-box and bespoke element to what we're doing. So there are products that will increase back office efficiencies, and we'll know that we'll be able to kind of deliver those efficiencies back to the customer where we can. We'll reinvest them in terms of changing and meeting our charitable purpose. Then there's the kind of step change approach where we might identify, okay, if we put a decent bit of investment in this, where can we increase our gains to make sure that we are both improving our processes now, but also then a bit of a nod to the third one, which is where are we placing our bets? Where is the real moonshots? We know assessment's probably going to be transformed in the next, it's already on its way, but 5, 10, 15, 20 years. We've been around as an education charity for 120 years. Wow. What's the next 120 years going to look like? And how can we, basically, how would future us, say thank you for the bets that we have placed now, and where do we innovate to make sure that we've got sustainability in the future? So it's basically lining up the different component parts to think, okay, here's our good bets, here's where we can take probably a more stable, risk-averse approach, but it's laying those foundations.
And I think something that's really important to us about the way we're approaching AI is that we're taking a very human-centric approach to it. So we don't just want to have the human in the loop, we want to have the human, the colleague at the heart of everything that we do. So we don't see AI as being just about technology, we see it about what can the technology help our people to do. We want our people to do things better, and we also want our people to do better things as a result of the artificial intelligence that we can implement for them.
Yeah, brilliant. I hear a lot from a lot of our clients actually, how to get started. Yeah. So how do they even begin to engage with transformative technology? Can you talk us through how you got started? So Anna, you already talked a little bit about that, weighing up bespoke compared to something off the shelf in terms of products and solutions. And can you also perhaps touch upon your delivery approach, which was Avanade's AI Transformation Studio in this case?
Yeah. So we had a number of people in the organisation who were passionate about AI, and we brought those people together into a community of practice to find out who was interested in what, who was learning about what, who'd read what piece of research, and who was interested in implementing what type of artificial intelligence for their projects, and then having set up that community. And I think that's really important if you want to put the human at the heart of what you do. You obviously need to have a strategy as well, which Anna, you can probably talk a little more about, but having that kind of heart of the organisation with people who are really interested in AI and they want to trial it, they want the tools, they want to use it, and they're doing little pilots. They're doing pilots with our CRM system, implementing chatbots and so on. And so there's a whole bunch of different things that we're experimenting with, and I think that's a really great way to drive AI forwards and have it become part of the organisational culture, but obviously within the context of an overarching strategy that makes sure we're making the right sorts of choices about what we work on.
Yeah. And I think, anyone who's out there is probably already starting to tinker around the edges, which may well be why they're interested in finding out more. I think, firstly, don't underestimate the importance of laying some good foundations and guardrails, but that doesn't come at the cost of innovation. So for us, it was really important that we've got powerful partners we work with, such as yourselves, because why would we do all of it ourselves? That just seems daft, actually. And in a way, you can bring in capacity, expertise, and a sounding board, really, to help you on that journey. There's other areas where actually it's much more appropriate in terms of assessment expertise that we build our own stuff. So where do you buy, where do you build, where are there partnerships that you can have, really powerful partnerships that drive on your ability to kind of transform what you do. Don't assume you can do it all yourself, but similarly have those really strong guardrails in place and kind of co-create a little along the way, I think feels important.
Yeah, so we knew that we had the people with the creativity and the intelligence that we could harness. They knew what use cases they wanted to use AI for, but we also knew that we needed some external help and to work with Avanade as one of our key technology partners to help, as you say, put a framework around this. So a couple of different things that we have been working with Avanade on in terms of artificial intelligence are helping us to create an ethical framework that we can use to make sure that our use of AI is absolutely ethical in everything that we do. And then working with the Gen AI studio as well to pilot a number of use cases. So we brought people together, we ideated, we came up with 100 different use cases in an hour. Because that's the scale of opportunity. 100 different use cases in an hour for our HR processes, our finance processes, and our IT processes, so our back office processes. And then we piloted one of those, which was a job description generator, and now we're working to pilot a chatbot that interrogates our HR policies.
And just in terms of the speed, it sounds quite cheesy, but we sort of talk about if it were an extra team member. We're obviously not quite at that point yet, but if you genuinely, you could ask somebody to be able to synthesize a huge amount of policies, pull out the pithiness of it, or just see whether they're out of date and what needs to be reformed. That saves a huge amount of time and energy for colleagues to free them up to do other much more interesting things. And we've had some nervousness from some colleagues because there's a lot of change involved. So don't underestimate, I think, the importance of taking people on the journey with you to say, actually, if anything, it will support and help you grow in terms of the work that you do that you actually really enjoy, as opposed to some of the more menial stuff that we actually probably don't need to do as much anymore. So that's part of that journey, I would say.
I think that's a really fantastic, meaningful metaphor, actually, seeing AI as an extra team member. I haven't heard that before. So, we've talked a lot about the approach now, responsible AI considerations, change considerations. You took us through some of the use cases, but can you dive a little bit more deeply into some of the use cases where you're using Gen AI, and also maybe just some of the use cases where you're not using Gen AI or transformative technology at all, but are still very much just with the human, so not human in the loop, but very much focusing on our capabilities.
So the use case that we're piloting at the moment is related to our summer temps. So we hire a large temporary workforce in the summer who come and help us with the exam processing. Yes,
we tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands.
In terms of markers and people.
Markers and people who come in, and young people often come and work from our premises, and they help us with the exams processing. And when you're kind of relatively new in the workplace, you need to know how to go about doing your job. You want to know when you're allowed to take a lunch break, and what's the policy around if you need to phone in sick, for example. And so we decided to implement an AI generated chatbot that these temps could use to interrogate these policies. So instead of having to turn to the person next to you and say, do you know what the policy is on such and such thing? And that person doesn't know, so you have to go onto the intranet and search it and read through it. You can ask a chatbot, which we're programming to have an AQA tone of voice, and that will go and interpret all the available documents, and it'll bring back the right one and give the answer straight away to the person. So they can just focus on doing the best work that they can for us, rather than, worrying about taking any of their time to have to go and read all of these policies. So we think that's going to be not only a time saver, but we think it's also going to help our temporary workforce to feel really comfortable in what they do for us.
And then there's something I could probably give a bit of a sense of where we are not, because I think that's important to outline.
I think so too. Yeah.
We're taking a really measured approach to where we would and where we wouldn't innovate as a highly regulated area. Public confidence and ability to deliver exams securely and accurately are a huge part of what we do.
I can imagine.
And whilst within that space there are obviously pilots around quality assessment and QA, and making sure that we are creating as many efficiencies in our process as possible. As you can understand, we would never replace the human as part of that process in that way. So being really mindful about where are the back office and some of the efficiencies we might then deliver onto customers in terms of their ability to chat and communicate with us, versus where have we got to take a much more proportionate risk-based approach. It's a variety.
Absolutely fascinating. So, in conclusion, I think you've given our listeners just a fantastic North Star. So thank you very, very much. Yeah, final words. What are your learnings and takeaways that our clients and listeners should have top of mind when they embark on the journey that you've just embarked on with transformative technology, particularly with generative AI? What should they keep top of mind? What did you learn along the way?
I think having an ethical framework that we can use to make decisions, to guide our decision making, has been enormously important for us, and that was a piece of work that we did in partnership with Avanade, and we've created the framework. It comes with a number of different assessments, and we're working through those at the moment for the use case that we've described around the chatbot for the interpreting the policies, and it's allowed us to have a really rich conversation around what are the actual implications of using this chatbot, and how are we programming its tone of voice, and how are we managing the data in the background to see who will be able to check what data the chatbot has accessed and who's requested that data, and just making sure that we're super clear about that, so that we can say very confidently that we're using this AI in the most ethical way possible. So I think that's probably my number one takeaway, is when you embark on this journey, as well as creating some, hearts and minds enthusiasm for the work ahead, is have the ethical framework ready so that you can be guided by that in everything that you do.
Yeah, and I think Alice has put a much more detailed response there, because I basically say don't think you can run before you can walk, and that is
that's a great metaphor.
But it really is. It summarises that once you get in place some of those foundations, then you can unleash a lot of the innovation, and that feels really important. And then don't forget the human part of this, right? There's a massive change journey that we are embarking on, and to make sure that people feel part of that, developed and trained and supported appropriately, that feels really important.
Yeah, and I think really thinking about what is the best possible use of the artificial intelligence. It would be really easy just to buy a bunch of Copilot licenses and say, there you go and use these, it will enhance your productivity. But I think the approach that we took, we wanted to do something that was a little more tailored and a little more customised to the specifics of our industry, hiring these temps, for example, and what could we do for that particular group in the workforce.
Yeah.
Anna and Alice, it has just been fantastic.
Thank you.
Quite eye-opening too. It's been a pleasure, so thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to seeing you all very, very soon on the next episode of Avanade's series, Imagine What You Will Do with AI.